Okay, good morning. It's Friday, April 21st, and this is another meeting of the House Sexual Harassment Prevention Panel. And we are here to continue our review of the rules of procedure. So, Damien?
Morning. I'm just getting things started on my computer, so it'll take me a minute.
All right.
We left off most of the way through the rules of procedure. And then I sent you a copy of the Senate's policy that they just adopted.
Right.
Or actually a copy of the House policy if you aligned it, showing the changes necessary to align it with the Senate.
So I guess we should just try to get through the, Patty has to leave at 9. I guess we should just try to finish the rules of procedure and wrap that up, and then we hopefully have time to look at the other. We can always look at it and check in with you, Patty. Does anybody else have to leave at 9? You do, okay.
Yeah.
The committee starts at 9.
Yeah. Understand.
It won't matter if I'm 5 minutes late, but I'd like to not miss the whole thing.
Yeah.
So let me just pull up the document here.
Did we get that from you, Molly, or did we get it from Damien?
This is from Damien. This is a new draft
Right. Okay.
dated.
So I can pull it up on my on the screen here if that's
Okay,
helpful.
that'd be good.
It's a mile away from
That
us.
is-
So,
Bring my.
all right. Let me log into the meeting. Almost there. Could you make me a co-host, please, Lindsay? Great, thank you. So we left off, so we had just decided not to pursue the alternative burden of proof, which would have been preponderance of the evidence instead of clear and convincing evidence during the hearing. And then we were at the point of the outcome of the hearing. And there were two questions here that the committee needed to discuss. The first was, right now the rule says that at least 4 members of the panel have to either find that there's clear and convincing evidence that a violation occurred or that there's no clear and convincing evidence. But it doesn't address what happens when the panel splits 3-2 or if one of the members has to recuse themselves. So we needed to discuss the possibility of, should there be a provision providing for no finding? And then what would the outcome of that be? Is it any different from dismissing the finding that there's not clear and convincing evidence of a violation? And then alternatively, should we also discuss what to do, whether there should be a different number necessary if you have fewer than 5 members sitting. So, I mean, it's conceivable that you could have a panel hearing with as many as 2 people recusing themselves. That's happened before for other panels I'm aware of, where they had a panel of 5 and 2 people had to recuse themselves.
What did they do in that situation?
They, with that particular panel, they just needed a majority. So it was a 2 out of 3 had to rule in favor. But I do remember that ruling generated a lot of controversy because it was with fewer than 5. And, you know, and that was on a very different subject matter. But in this case, the question is, do you want to maintain that you need to have 4 members? One alternative is that instead of requiring at least 4 members to find that there is not clear and convincing evidence, you could just say if at least 4 members of the panel are not able to find that there is clear and convincing evidence. So in other words, if you can't get 4 members of the panel to find that a violation occurred, then you go to the dismissal of the complaint at that point and close the complaint. The alternative is to go with a majority 3-2, or to say if fewer than 5 members are sitting, a majority would decide the complaint, which would be 3-2, or in the case of 3 members, it would be, or 3-1 in the case of 4 members and 2-1 in the case of 3 members.
So what does the Senate do?
The Senate's procedures are quite different.
Oh, okay.
So
I was trying to get them like.
let me pull up the Senate's procedures. Yeah, and this is where our rules of procedures between the Senate and the House diverge. And just pull.
It's concerning to me because we have staff members that may work for the Senate and the House and depending on who they go to, they're following completely different ways of.
Yeah.
About that, Patty, I
procedures.
think we should be as close to the Senate as we can.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
they should be as close to us.
Yeah.
Well, I think in the policy, we
So
can do that. It's,
the policy, we do that. The procedures, part of it comes down to the differences in how the bodies
Yeah.
conduct their business internally.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the procedures just for how the hearings.
I mean, as far as they have their committee on committee.
They have their committee on committees, their rules
Okay.
committee, the Senate secretary is the counsel for their panels.
Okay.
While I've been sitting in on their discussions of their procedures, I'm there as a
Because the
witness
Senate secretary.
rather than as counsel
Okay.
to the panel.
Okay.
And I'm really there when they ask questions. Well, how does the House do it? So
representing us.
that's what I'm there to answer. Yeah, so their rules currently provide, and they're in the process of reviewing their own rules of procedure. Their rules currently provide that if the panel finds that there is not clear and convincing evidence, or if the panel finds that there is, it doesn't set a number.
Oh, it doesn't set a number. Oh.
So I think
Can we say like if the majority of the panel?
if you did that, then
That's simple. And it's either 2
it
to 1 or
simplifies it.
3
And you
to
don't have this issue of
2 or.
that gray area where
Right.
no finding can occur,
Right.
or what if only 4 members are sitting, you know, or worse yet, what if 3 members are sitting and the rules say you have to have 4 to make a decision?
Yeah.
Do you just have to dismiss the case? So yeah, we'll change that to a majority.
Okay.
You know, it might
Everybody-
be in a situation like that.
Okay, I'm seeing a thumbs up from Representative Hedrick. Great.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
we
good.
might be able to work it out too eventually, you know, I mean, people initially might say,
Exactly.
and then we might
And
talk
if-
about it a little bit more and.
Or if a panel member, I can't make it today, but I can be there tomorrow. I mean, yeah, I think we can kind of.
All right, here's that solved.
Excellent. You're doing good work today. Okay. So the next question that we had that was open is on the public statement, Rule 18. We wanted to discuss whether the speaker should or should not make the public statement. I think there had been discussion at our last meeting about saying the panel chair in consultation with the speaker as appropriate, instead of the panel chair or the speaker as appropriate.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, because there's sometimes when, like you said, if it's a reassignment of a
Right, somebody's
committee
gonna
member or
ask
somebody,
questions.
then
Right.
it should be the speaker.
Correct.
So I think that can be,
yeah, and, there may be issues too where the speaker, for whatever reason, doesn't want to be the person speaking on the
Right.
decision because of the impression that might create, depending on the situation. So,
But if you change that from or to in consultation with, does that still allow the speaker to make a statement?
I think so.
Yeah.
We could say, because the speaker could make a statement at the same time as the panel. But I think it requires the panel chair to be part of the statement. And so at that point, the panel chair, the statement from the panel chair could be, we recommended to the Rules Committee that they submit a motion censuring the member. And then the speaker would say, talk about what happened in the Rules Committee or something like that, potentially. So I think it leaves the door open.
Great.
It just requires the panel chair to be part of making that statement. So that's the difference, is under the existing rule, the speaker could say, I'm going to make the statement, panel chair, stay out of it. In this case, it'll be panel chair has to make a public statement, but they do it in consultation with the speaker's office. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think it precludes the speaker from making her own statement if the panel chair is
No, or
making
making a joint statement.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Does the speaker have access to, as far as legal advice?
Legislative counsel. The speaker also has access to our outside counsel. Historically, when there have been issues that have come to the speaker's office attention, where whatever it might be, but issues that might have a legal component, whether it's a member came to the speaker complaining that they were harassed or discriminated against, or questions about speech or other things like that, the speaker consults with legislative counsel usually, and the clerk's office too, especially if it's a parliamentary issue or an ethical issue for the House. I think the key would be just that we would potentially have to internally create firewalls between attorneys. Potentially, if the speaker's office had a different stance from this panel. If the speaker wanted independent advice on an issue that had come before the panel, for example, should the Rules Committee impose that penalty that the panel recommended? If the panel had been working with our outside counsel, Pietro Lynn, I might be the person to talk to the speaker, or if the panel had been working with me, Jen Carby, our chief counsel, or Mike O'Grady might be the person to provide counsel to the speaker. But we've done that before, where there have been issues internally where different parties need independent counsel so that they feel like they're not getting the viewpoints of the other group, and then we'll split our office and just kind of say, okay, we can't discuss this issue. And so we alert each other ahead of time that, I'm providing counsel to one of the parties in this instance. You should discuss the case with me going forward. And that's something that we've had to do. It's part of why we've brought outside counsel on, is to help prevent those situations from happening, especially when it's an internal matter where there may be conflicts, even just with trying to be objective about the evidence that's coming to the panel. So,
Complicated.
yeah.
This most recent issue we dealt with, did that one involve separate legal advice?
It did not.
Because that's a pretty close, I mean, high-level administration, not administration, but high level to high level, you know, she encouraged us to send a letter.
I think we should be discussing this in a public meeting.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay. But yeah, the answer is in that case, it did not.
Probably tell her that.
Yeah,
So,
I think that she got the message.
Okay,
yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
Okay,
I like that.
Sorry about that.
Okay. The next change, this was a rewrite of the privacy section. So the proposed change would be, in order to encourage persons who believe they have experienced sexual harassment to feel comfortable contacting members of the panel and pursuing a resolution through the panel and panel staff shall maintain privacy and confidentiality of all parties that contact the panel to the greatest extent possible as provided pursuant to this section. And then except as permitted pursuant to subsection C, the panel and panel staff shall, except to the extent necessary to investigate an alleged violation of the policy, or to carry out the provisions of these rules, keep confidential any information obtained under the policy and rules, all panel discussions and deliberations related to an alleged violation of the policy, and all records produced and acquired. And then C would provide that a complainant may grant the panel and panel staff a limited waiver of the requirements of this section for purposes of communicating with entities that have jurisdiction over the incident, conduct, or alleged violation of the policy that is before the panel. And so this leaves open the possibility of not just communicating with another panel, either the House Discrimination or Ethics panel or the Senate Sexual Harassment or Ethics panel, but also communicating with an entity like the Human Rights Commission, potentially if one of the parties to the incident is, say, a member of the administration or the executive branch, potentially communicating with their disciplinary team over at the Department of Human Resources. So it does leave open more flexibility for the complainant to sort of control, allowing the panel to say, well, one of the possible approaches here is to do a joint statement, or a joint proceeding because let's say that you're alleging both sexual harassment and racial discrimination.
Right.
And now we could work in tandem with the discrimination prevention panel instead of trying to pursue those two claims in isolation. And it allows but it is still the complainant's choice. They could say, for whatever reason, they could say, I don't want to work with them, or I want to keep this with the sexual harassment panel. So they get to drive that. I would just note that subsection B, as I read it out loud, sounded very kind of convoluted. I'll try to clean that up in a final draft. So it seemed like I had said accept about 6 times. And I felt like I was getting myself confused. I don't know if anyone else felt that, but it was starting to seem a little.
Except.
Yeah.
And I just want to go back to that majority of the panel. Should it be majority of the panel present?
Yeah.
I just thought of that. Or just because,
Well, and if somebody wasn't
I don't know.
part of the process for whatever reason, you have to make
I don't know.
a decision.
Because the majority of the panel will always be 3. If you have 4, still would be 3.
Yeah.
But if you had 3, it's only going to be 2. So should we say present or not?
I would say.
I think so, because otherwise you're not hearing all the
panel is
information and
5.
the evidence.
Yeah, majority present at the hearing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm going to be expeditious.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Because then what
Okay.
would you do? You'd have to like bring the other
Well, I mean, I
person up
think
to
that
speed.
solves the
Yeah,
issue of who's there.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
okay.
That's a good catch.
thank you.
Okay. So does the alternative language make sense?
Yep.
The panel with a little cleanup? Okay. And that brings us just down to maintenance of records. Let me reshare my screen here. It's the final rule. So this would provide that legislative council in cooperation with human resources and legislative IT would maintain the records. And the reason I'm suggesting this change is because I've been working with human resources and legislative IT to create a secure online platform for us to, so a secure platform within our system so that when a member receives a complaint, instead of forwarding it to the rest of the panel by email, you would forward a link
Okay.
and then you would click on the secure link and only people who have access to the link or who are on the panel would be able to access the complaint. Same way we'd be able to share drafts of, for example, a warning letter, and then the panel could review and comment on it on the platform, but it would be secured,
Good.
more secure than our current process with less risk of something, just inadvertently forgetting to lock your laptop or device when you get up to get a cup of coffee and then having someone see the complaint. So
Yeah, good.
So that's the hope. But that's why I've added that language, because we've been working with IT to develop that. As you can imagine, things have gone slowly during the session, so we're hoping to finalize that in the summer and then have it ready to roll out next session.
Yeah,
So
that's good.
It's amazing what our IT people have done.
I know.
I mean, just incredible.
they are hardworking year round. So
Yeah. All right, is that it?
that's it for that one.
All right.
So you want to look at the Senate?
Do we need to vote on this or?
Well, we should probably wait to vote till you see the final
Okay.
changes.
And I just FYI, I looked at, last year, we adopted our policy on April 29th.
Yes.
And next week will be April 30th. So maybe we can wrap everything up next week. hopefully.
And then hopefully in 2024, we can take a break from
Right.
adopting policies.
How many years have we been like,
Don't want to rush into.
We've been tweaking it for years now.
This is 9 years, Molly.
9 years.
okay, you have to go.
I'm gonna school
All right,
off.
thank you, Carolyn.
Yes.
I have to go
All right,
too.
Have a good day,
Okay.
have a good weekend.
Should we hold off on the Senate piece then?
You think we can do that in one session? Do we,
It's-
you want to send it to people and we can look it over?
Yes.
I mean, you can send it to us and you can look it over and then maybe just, they're not major,
They're not major changes. The biggest concern the Senate had was they felt that a couple parts
Okay.
sort of overstated things and wanted to just dial down the language a little bit, I think. So, but we can go through that.
well, I guess the other thing is, there are 3 of us here.
Okay.
What do you think, Mike?
To go over it,
Yeah,
right? We don't have any Republicans here right now.
Yeah.
That makes a difference.
oh, right, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right, Okay, so if you send it to us,
I will.
and then that's everybody's homework, is to look through it and see what questions we have.
You sent it to us the other day, right? I'm looking
I
at
think
it.
I sent it to you last night.
So,
Yeah.
oh, yes, yeah, you did, right.
Okay. So then I will just,
So send that, and at some point, send the, whatever little tweaks you made in the procedure. And we
right,
can hopefully
Yeah.
wrap everything up next week.
fingers crossed.
Right,
All right.
this time is running out.
That is fleeting.
Yes. Great. I hope you feel better, Representative Hedrick.
Yeah, thanks. Getting there. All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave and jump into my committee Zoom now.
All right.
I'll get there
See you
quicker than
next
you all
week.
will.